After the success of Street Fighter II in the arcades and on the Super Nintendo, there were a lot of imitators that followed, and one of those imitators is a game called World Heroes. World Heroes was the second fighting game released by SNK for their Neo Geo MVS arcade system, and then a port of the game was developed by Sunsoft for the Super Nintendo. When you look back at fighting games from the early 1990s, you'll notice there's not a lot special about most of them, and one thing that especially stands out about World Heroes is that it's lacking originality. The one place that the lack of originality is most noticeable is the different characters. First, you have a pair of similarly dressed characters who wear different colors, who are rivals in Hanzo and Fuma, much like Ken and Ryo or Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Next, you have a wrestler like Zangief in Muscle Power, who looks nothing at all like Hulk Hogan. Then you have a Bruce Lee imitator named Kim Dragon, possibly the first unless you count Liu Kang. And then a character with stretchy limbs like Dalsim, who's actually a ripoff of a character from the Kinnikuman manga. The rest of the roster is rounded out by characters inspired by Joan of Arc, Genghis Khan, and Grigory Rasputin. The only non-fighter character you encounter in the game is a scientist named Doc Brown. Great Scott! Topping it all off, the end boss morphs like Shang Tsung or the T-1000 from Terminator 2. Well, one thing that's pretty novel about this game is the Fatal Match option, which adds environmental hazards to the matches, including electricity, fire, spikes, mines, and oil slicks to keep you on your toes or use to your advantage. As with most decent fighting games from this time period, this game is fairly pick up and play. The controls are responsive, and while this is an SNK fighting game, there aren't any half-circle controller motions, and all of the special attacks use the familiar Street Fighter II style. One nice thing about the Super Nintendo version is that you have the option of a two attack button control layout, which is much more comfortable if you ask me. The graphics and sound effects are pretty typical of the era. However, unlike Street Fighter II, the music is forgettable. Being a teenager in the early 1990s, I was a big fighting game fan, and also World Heroes became one of those favorite games. Despite the lacking in originality, I always found the characters kind of entertaining and quirky, and I still do, and I still pop the game in every once in a while and enjoy it. For those of you without a Super Nintendo, you can find the Neo Geo version of the game on the Wii Virtual Console and on compilations for the PlayStation 2 by SNK. However, if you own a Genesis, I highly recommend you avoid the World Heroes port that was Western developed and published by Sega in 1994. While it looks great graphically, the gameplay, the sound were really poor, and there are certain elements of the game which were changed kind of drastically, and it really suffered. It's one of those games where you really see that stigma of like Western development. That about wraps things up. Thank you for watching. I will be doing more game reviews from here on. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you tune in for the next. Thank you very much. Take care.